Wide mandatory mask order takes effect Monday. It applies to all indoor and outdoor locations where socially distancing can't be maintained. The order also requires school staff, teachers, and students in grades 3 and above to wear masks. With positive cases increasing, the governor says the mask order is necessary to keep the state from having to reimpose previous COVID-19 restrictions. As Ethan Burks reports, cities and counties had been implementing their own mask rules in the absence of a statewide order.
Kelly Clark and Nola Hartman are the co-founders of Bloomington Mask Drive, a volunteer program of about 350 people that have distributed more than 25,000 masks to the community during the pandemic. They believe their role is even more important now that Monroe County has a mask mandate.
Universal mask wearing is our only vaccine. And like a vaccine, it only works if everybody gets on board and does it.
Program volunteers help by sewing masks at home, and then Clark and her team sort and package the masks for distribution.
Almost anybody who has a sewing machine has sort of stepped forward at some point, it seems like, and said, I could make some masks.
Clark says they're expecting an increase in demand with the new requirement. Along with the mask mandate, the hundreds of bars and restaurants downtown and throughout Bloomington will be limited to 10 people per table, as well as a 100-person limit indoors and 150 people allowed outdoors. The county says the added public gathering rules will go into effect on Friday, July 31st. But Mayor John Hamilton issued an executive order earlier this week for the city to implement these rules sooner, starting this weekend.
So the evidence that we've seen from around the country that a difference of a week can make a real difference in the curve. So I did want to accelerate them.
As far as the state's mask mandate, Governor Eric Holcomb says it will begin on Monday.
We don't want to dial it back or put it in reverse, or as some are, shutting down again. Face coverings can and will help us blunt this increase.
One way Bloomington Mask Drive will help people get access to free masks is by setting up self-serve community stations. These stations will be able to hold up to 100 masks at a time, and the goal is to have them in public places throughout the city.
I'd love to see some go out into more distant county locations if we get some partners out there. It just depends on how many people want them and how many people are willing to build them for us.
Clark says she hopes every person in the community will live close enough to one of these stations so that they know they can always grab a mask when they need to. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Burks.
The state's attorney general says the governor doesn't have the authority to mandate masks or attach a criminal penalty if someone doesn't abide by the new rules. In an opinion, Curtis Hill wrote that the governor would have to call a special session to impose such a mandate. Legislative Democrats issued calls for a special session this week for different reasons. The legislature adjourned its regular season in March and isn't scheduled back until January. Our State House reporter Brandon Smith joins us now from Indianapolis with more. Brandon, let's just start now with this mask order. It's scheduled to take effect on Monday. Like I said, the Attorney General says it can't be enforced. What's going on here?
Well, there was a non-binding opinion from the Attorney General, which doesn't have any force of law. It was done after several Senate Republicans complained to the Attorney General about the order and their concerns about it. We just saw, literally a few minutes before we started taping this show today, we just saw finally the actual executive order from the governor, and he has reversed course slightly. The mask mandate is still in place, but there is now no longer any enforcement penalty associated with it. With all of the executive orders that the governor has issued during the pandemic, there is, under state law, a Class B misdemeanor if you violate those orders, and that's been in those orders so far. Now he's saying enforcement of the mask mandate is solely the responsibility of state and local health departments and solely via education. So this is a mask mandate with absolutely zero teeth.
We also heard the AG say the governor needs to call a special session. What would that accomplish?
Well, the AG's opinion is that the governor can't do this under the broad emergency powers in state law, and so in order to impose a mask mandate at all, he would need the legislature to pass a bill in order to do that. It's unlikely that that will happen because now you have Senate leadership, at least, for instance, Republican leadership, supporting the governor's executive order around a mask mandate because it doesn't include that enforcement penalty.
You know, other states have similar mask mandates. I know in Kentucky, the AG has also challenged the governor's mask order. Are you hearing anything about this having to go to the courts at some level, at some point, or no?
It would have been possible if there had been that enforcement penalty, but I think the fact that Holcomb has so neutered the order now that we've actually seen what the order actually looks like, I'm not sure that we'll see a legal battle play out over this. It's absolutely possible. Someone could bring it, anyone in the state could bring it to state court, and we'll see if that happens. But now that there's no longer any sort of penalty associated with it, it's a lot less likely.
Switching gears, Dems are also calling for a special session. That was before the governor's mask mandate was on the table. What do they want in a special session?
Yeah, masks wasn't on the agenda, on their agenda. They want three things. One, they want to expand vote by mail to any Hoosier who wants to cast a ballot that way for November. So far, Republicans and the governor have been resistant to that. They want to have more say-so over how the federal COVID relief dollars are spent. So far, that's solely being run through the governor's office. And then they want a limited police reform agenda, a ban on chokeholds, no-knock warrants, and racial profiling. All of that is unlikely to happen, or at least in a special session, because Republican legislative leaders have said that there's no reason to do that.
All right, Brandon, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.